How's it going so far? Like first digital con for you?
This is the first one that I've ever made. Yeah, this is a lot of work.
Regretting it already, are you?
I'm gonna have like co-host if we do it again, like next year or whatever. Yeah, that's definitely.
When I saw the schedule, I thought, wow, that's ambitious. That's like
proper,
full on, full on discussion. It's good, I think that's it's nice, but yeah, it must take a lot of energy and a lot of work.
Oh, it does. Yeah, like 3 days. I was like, oh, that shouldn't be that bad. And then I started seeing like the amount of people that wanted to do it. I was like, oh, okay. And then like certain people had to drop off to do something else or some personal thing, and I was like, oh, okay. So then I had to like schedule somebody else there, or we had to like find the time somewhere else, or that was words. I can't.
But even just the energy of just talking, and if you're on every single one, it takes a lot out of you, doesn't it?
Well, the last one just helped because I said one sentence, so that was good. So like, as long as I have more people that talk, and then people don't have to hear my voice or see me talk,
you can catch your breath.
Yeah, like if you want, not trying to do this when I have to go to the bathroom, but I have to go. If you want
go for it.
If you want to do like your elevator pitch and stuff for if you want to put your Kickstarter link in the comments, you can do that, and then I'll be right back.
Sure.
If you want to do the elevator pitch for that, I don't know if you can share the screen and share the screen.
I can indeed. So I can share all my social links and stuff and talk through the comic I've done, and so you go, leave yourself, hand me the reins, and I can share the screen. So let's have a look.
And I'll be right back.
Okay, this is cool. Okay, so hi everyone. Whilst Greg is in the toilet, or while he's away, I should say. So my name is Sebastian Chow. I'm a comic creator and illustrator based in London, UK. I make comics from start to scratch. So I'll be the penciler, inker, writer. I'll try my hand at coloring. I'll create everything from scratch. So I did this in 2017 with a comic that I self-published through Kickstarter, which was an experience. Thoroughly recommend it if you've not done it before. And the comic was called Catapulted. So I'll see if I can share it here. Why Catapulted? It was a story based during the space race during the 1950s and 60s, where certain countries were sending monkeys into space. I think it was America. Russia sent dogs. They had Laika, the famous dog. And I found out that France actually sent cats. And that fascinated me. It blew my mind. So here is the Kickstarter that I did, and it just followed the journey from one cat's perspective that went into space, and he meets Yubkin, who's the astronaut that goes in before the well-known Yuri Gagarin, who was the first manned orbit space flight. So welcome back, Greg.
Hey. Okay, I didn't add your thing to that. So okay.
Oh, there we go. Cool. So I was just telling everyone about the Kickstarter I did. This was the first comic I ever did, and it's kind of an ongoing project. So this was the first issue, and it was about I don't know if most people know kind of like the space race history. Like America and Russia were fighting to get to the moon and to get into space, and where they were sending animals up prior to sort of manned flights, and Russia sent Laika the dog, and I think America sent these tiny little chimps, and I found out that France actually did send a cat into lower orbit, which fascinated me. So I couldn't. I mean, I've got cats myself, and I'm a big cat lover, so I just couldn't imagine this cat going into space. And if you Google sort of cats in space in France. You'll see all these black and white photos of them. And so it just gave me this idea for this, this story that just follows this cat that goes into space, and he bumps into a cosmonaut. And it is kind of like a little known fact or weird history. There's seems to be evidence that before the Yuri Gagarin went into space, there was sort of other manned missions. It's before Yuri Gagarin, they just weren't successful, so they kind of kept it kind of hush hush. So the cat kind of bumps into this abandoned cosmonaut, and it's just kind of their journey in space and trying to get back home and just survive, really. So hence the comic Catapulted. So I did this in 2017, and I've worked on a few different projects, but I'm kind of actively working to bring this to a sort of a trade paperback kind of closed story. So it's going to be about 3 to 4 issues in length, but I'm just going to release it as one kind of graphic novel now. And yeah, just got some exciting rewards planned. So I did some I've been doing some sculpting recently, and I kind of want to get into doing busts. Let me see if I can find the picture. Here we go. Please load. There we go. So yeah, I've been doing sort of some sculpting of some of the main characters. So the idea is, as one of the higher tier rewards, this will be kind of like a bust that I'm going to cast and do sort of replicas of and hand paint. So there'll be one of Yubkin the astronaut, and I'll do another one of the cat. So kind of since lockdowns happened, I've been trying my hand at a few different things, and sculpting has been quite a nice break from drawing, and so yeah, so that kind of working on this this is my first story, really. And I was fortunate with the first Kickstarter put it in their discoverer. It was like a discovery category.
Yeah.
And like most of the funding came from that. Like a lot of people found it just from Kickstarter's promotion, and which was really, I was really, really fortunate because I didn't have any following anywhere. So I didn't have any Instagram followers or Facebook followers. So, and yeah, it just took it to a couple of cons. It sold well. So there's no more, I don't have any more physical issues apart from a couple of personal copies. And, but it's available digitally. Yeah, it's had some good feedback from people who've read it, which is good. But it's one of those things as a creator, I look back at it and I cringe because I feel like, the art could have been so much better, or could have done this, or could have done that. But it really was the best way to learn how to do a comic. It's just to get stuck in, and I learned so much from that whole process. So yeah, that's kind of my starting in comics, really.
Oh, that's cool. Well, that was your first ever Kickstarter that you ever did?
Yeah, so I don't know if you know like Tyler James, and he does the whole comics launch. So yep. I used to listen to his podcast quite a lot, and I saw his website. I used to follow him back in the days of Comics Tribe, and I think it was him and was it Steve? I forget his surname, but he used to work with another guy. They used to look at people's scripts and pages and give feedback. And then when he did comics launch, he really he analyzed it like down to the really fine detail as to how anyone could launch a comic, and specifically comics, on Kickstarter. And just listening, it's like, actually this seems more feasible. It doesn't seem as difficult, and he's laying it out. I mean, he's got courses, but a lot of his advice on the podcasts and in his blog posts and some of the free stuff he gives away, it's a lot of helpful info for anyone thinking of self-publishing. So I soaked all of that up, and then I remember going to a con and speaking to someone who was kind of in exactly the same position I'm in now. They'd done one comic, booked a table, sold it at a con, and I showed him the sketches that I had of these characters for Catapulted. And he said, yeah, that's good, it's nice. But he says, but you want to do the comic, He says, I don't want you to come back next year and say, look, I've done a few more sketches, or even here's a page. He goes, you need to do the comic. So he said, book a table and then just do it. And that's what I did. So as soon as tables came available in London for, I think it was London Super Comic Con, I booked a table and thought, right, I've got 10 months to get a comic done. And that really did motivate me. I literally had nightmares of being at a table with just nothing there, and just like having A4 sheets of paper and a biro, and people saying, oh, so where's the comic? And I'm like, yeah, I don't have it. I'll draw you a picture though. And I'd wake up sweating, and I thought, right, I need to get the comic done. And it worked. I got it done. It was down to the wire, but I got it done. Had a great con. Sold a ton of comics, and it really helped move things along as someone who wanted to make comics to now someone who's made a comic, done a comic con. So it's the first one I've done by myself. I've done a couple of others with other creators. I was trying to launch a kids book with a friend of mine. He's a YouTuber. And I did some illustrations for him. Unfortunately, that wasn't successful, but we're still going to try to release that through Amazon. I think the kids category doesn't do so well on Kickstarter. That's like I think it's under books rather than under comics, which has its own category. And I'm also working with Simon Burks, who's another creator from the UK. In fact, I think he's just had his debut in an anthology for an Image comic that came out not too long ago. I think maybe last month. So he's had a long history of writing comics, and I met him before I did Catapulted, and he's got so many stories, and one of them's a sci-fi story. This really cool sci-fi story called Gone, about these kind of robots who are trying to piece together their identity. And they kind of come from a human background, and he did volume 1, which was 3 issues, and he's doing another. I wonder if I've got a picture here somewhere, but he's doing the 2nd volume, and we'd spoken, and I said, look, I'm kind of interested in doing another project on the go, and so we sorted some stuff out, and I've just finished the thumbnails for issue 1. And so I'm working on doing I'll be doing the pencils, the inks, and the colors for that issue. And he's going to release that through Kickstarter sometime next year as well. Let's see if I can grab it. So this is my Instagram. Here we go. So these are the kind of the rough sketch. I was just doing some silhouette stuff with these 2 robots that kind of wander around this wreckage, and they're kind of trying to piece together what's happened to them. It's a nice simple story, just 2 characters, and just a nice sci-fi adventure. So I'm looking forward to seeing that complete as well. So that'd be cool.
There's a guy we host like comics on our platform, and one of them is Marbles the Cat. He's like it's like takes place in 2089, and it's like a cyborg cat basically, and like him and a couple other cats like have to save their owners, their humans, from like an alien invasion of like small robots and stuff. But that's basically what the first issue is about. It's actually a pretty cool story for like just like a horror guy making a sci-fi comic. So it's pretty cool.
It's a great combination. I mean, I did think as well when I was coming up with that what would try and hook people in, and I thought if I could somehow mix cats and sci-fi, like I think there's 2 genres there that would try and get a lot of attention, and then when I found out cats have literally been into space, I was like, right, I've got to do this.
I think I remember someone saying that at one point, but like I don't remember that. I guess
it's amazing when you see it. Let's have a look. Felicette was the cat. There you go. And they used to put these microchips embedded in their head to kind of monitor their life signs, and they would keep them in these boxes because obviously this is the apparatus that they had to put them in and literally just shove them inside the tip of the rocket. So they had to kind of get used to just being strapped down for hours on end, which is like a cat's worst nightmare. So they'd put them in these boxes to train them to just sit still, and they would boom really loud noises, so that they can get used to like the rocket, the sound of the rocket. I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, wow, this is how does this not been more featured in more areas? And I just thought that's a story waiting to happen. So it's just amazing. So but yeah, I mean, it's just I love, there's something about comics that is just, I think it's a great medium for telling stories. And I've got no interest in trying to, I know sometimes people, they want to write a story and they see comics as an entry point to whether it's movies or TV or it's kind of other mediums, but I just think there's a lot to be desired in comics when it comes to stories compared to anything else. And if you don't mind, I'd love to talk about it for a bit, because I can talk about this for ages. So
as long as I don't have to talk a lot.
Yeah.
That's what I
thought. So I thought let me kind of start rambling about this a little bit. So, and I've spoken about it before because I write some blog articles, and I tried to do a few videos just talking about this subject, because I feel it's a little bit, what's the word? It's not discussed enough, in my opinion. And I think it's kind of, it all lends to the strength of comics as a medium for storytelling. So the advantages I see of comics over, say, movies and novels, that they each have their strengths and weaknesses. In a novel, it's highly engaging in the imagination. In fact, it's really difficult to get into a book if you don't engage your imagination. But to build up the details, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. So you can't get that instant snapshot of what a scene looks like. You have to build it line by line, description by description. And sometimes it's happened to me, if it's not described well, or you interpret the information differently, you can build up a scene that you have to edit later on. Maybe you picture a character a certain way, and then you learn, something else about their appearance, or you picture a scene during the day, but then you learn it's at night, and you're constantly adjusting that. So it sometimes can be a bit, it can take a bit of time to kind of build that picture. But the payoff is that it's highly engaging. Once you've got that picture in your head, and once the story's going, you're as much a part of that, bringing that story to life. But it's the opposite in film. So everything's dictated to you, which is not a bad thing, but how something looks, how something sounds, even the duration of a moment. So if you're going to enjoy a scene, once that scene's over, if you're watching it in the cinema, you can't go back and rewind it. That scene's taken place. But you've got that abundance of visual information. You've got audio information. You've got all these different things that you can play with. Shots and cinematography. So completely opposite end to books. Now comics sits in the middle, and you've got kind of the best of kind of both mediums. So you can. It is highly engaging, and in the same way, you need that imagination engagement in order to connect the panel to panel, and that's what kind of can make the story really personal. So you can still have that personal touch to how someone sounds or how someone moves, because the reader needs to provide that. But you can convey a ton of information in a snapshot. So you can have a panel, and already, without reading the words, you can have this ton of visual information. Is it day? Is it night? Where's it set? Where's the characters standing? How do they look? And so you've kind of got the best of both worlds. And then, if you're trying to tell a story, you don't have to worry about budget like you do with movies. You're your set designer, you're your costume designer, you do the lighting, you're doing the cinematography, the viewpoints, character, you're doing everything, and it's open to you, so you're not restricted in that sense. But then you've really got some, that's kind of like I find in a lot of places that's spoken about. But then you've got like a deeper level. When I read books like Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics and Making Comics, which is, I read that over and over again. Every time I read it, I find new things in it. And you've got this thing in comics that plays on the relationship between written information and visual information. And I think he outlines like 6 different relationships. So, you can have words and pictures that practically describe the same thing. They're carrying equal information, so then, you could probably just look at the picture and get an idea of what's going on, or you could read the words and get the picture, get the idea of what's happening. You could have it being additive. So you've got a picture, maybe the words add a bit more information, but it's still describing the same, or the opposite. The pictures add in more information to whatever the words are. But then there's one relationship that he touches on that's really, really interesting. And I think he calls it interdependent relationship between words and pictures. And I'll show you an example. If I could share again, let's try this. Okay, so it's I should have had this prepared. Let's see if I can find it. It's one picture I'm looking for. I hope I can find it. Let's see if I go to images. Oh, I know where it is. Okay, this is going to be a shameless plug. So I wrote about it on my website, and I don't know why I didn't just go there first. So, and don't tell me this is the time when my website doesn't load. I've not had issues with it. It's really going to do that to me. Yeah, I can't believe it. Yeah, I've not had problems with it all week. The only time I ever have a problem with my website is when I try and upgrade it or do something. Wow. Yeah, I can't believe that. That's crazy.
Well, okay. My business partner does web design.
Does he? It's weird. In my day job, I project manage web build projects. So yeah, and I can't even get my own one to work. Let me see, Scott McCloud relationship, words and images. Let's see if I can find it. Word image combinations. Yes. I think this is the one. Okay, if not, I'll just describe it. So it's the image I'm looking for. It's an image of a woman on the phone. You might have to use your imagination here. And she's crying. And in the speech bubble, she says, "I'm so happy for you." So she's crying on the phone and she says, "I'm so happy for you." Now, if you were to take just the words, if you to split the words and the pictures, you take just the words, you would assume she's happy for whoever she's speaking to. You take the pictures and you would just assume she's sad.
Yeah.
But now you put the words and the pictures together, and only by putting the words and the pictures together do you get the true meaning of that panel, which is she's sad, but she's lying to say that she's happy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it's an automatic process that when the reader looks at that is going to say, he's learned something about the character that's not being explicitly said. So you could say she lied over the phone. You could drop some exposition, or you could put something in to be more obvious. Maybe a caption of in a fault. I lied when I was on the phone, or something like that. But that kind of relationship, and using that relationship, I think interacts with the reader a lot more. And I've kind of got this running theory I've been trying to develop, that I think it's that kind of interaction between the reader and the page that hooks them in. it's not necessarily the story genre or even the art to a degree, but it's how engaged and involved the reader is to the page. And those kind of moments, I think you kind of subconsciously, you get kind of like a bit of payback or satisfaction, because you kind of worked something out that you're not being explicitly told. I think we kind of like that with stories. We like it with plot. You work out the plot, before it unfolds, and you're kind of engaged into the movie. And I think if you do that, the more that kind of relationship is played upon, page by page.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it has to be there every page, but the more it is in a book, I think it makes the book more engaging. And it's actually surprising when you look at a lot of different books, whether it's indie books or mainstream books, like how often they kind of play on that relationship. It's not as often, as you think. But it just, I think these are the kind of things that I think, oh, wow, that's unique to comics and comics only. It's not in novels. You won't get that in movies. And it's what, can make storytelling really fun